Natalie Brooks stared at her reflection in the mirror, adjusting the emerald green dress that hugged her curves in ways that made her uncomfortable. The fabric was expensive, borrowed from Rachel, and completely unlike anything she would ever choose for herself. Her light brown hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders, and minimal makeup highlighted her natural features. She looked beautiful, but she felt like an imposter. "Stop frowning," Rachel called from the doorway, already dressed in a stunning red gown. "You look absolutely gorgeous. This gala is going to be amazing." Natalie sighed deeply. "I still don't understand why you need me there. These charity events are full of wealthy people who live in a completely different world. I'm just a marketing coordinator, Rachel. I don't belong there." Rachel walked over and placed both hands on Natalie's shoulders. "That's exactly why you need to come. You work too hard and never take time to experience anything new. One night won't hurt. Who knows what might happen?" Those words would echo in Natalie's mind for weeks to come. Entering a different world. The venue was breathtaking. The historic mansion had been transformed into a wonderland of twinkling lights, flowing champagne, and elegantly dressed guests. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the marble floors, and a string quartet played classical music from a raised platform. Natalie felt her stomach tighten as they walked through the grand entrance. Everywhere she looked, people discussed business deals worth millions, vacation homes and exotic locations, and investments that could change lives. She clutched her small purse tighter, suddenly very aware of how different her reality was from theirs. "Relax," Rachel whispered, linking arms with her. "Just enjoy the evening, try the champagne, admire the art, and stop overthinking everything." Natalie nodded, attempting a smile. Rachel meant well, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was trespassing in a world where she didn't belong. The moment everything changed. After 30 minutes of polite small talk and forced smiles, Natalie excused herself. She needed air, space, somewhere quiet to gather her thoughts. She wandered toward the edge of the ballroom, near tall windows that overlooked a beautifully lit garden. That's when she felt it. The sensation was impossible to ignore. Someone was watching her. Not the casual glance of a stranger, but an intense, focused gaze that made her skin tingle with awareness. Slowly, she turned her head. Across the room stood a man who took her breath away. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled in a way that looked effortlessly perfect. His tailored black suit fit him like it had been designed specifically for his body. Strong jawline, piercing dark eyes, and an expression of quiet confidence that commanded attention without effort. But it wasn't just his appearance that struck her. It was the way he looked at her, as if she was the only person in the entire crowded room. Their eyes locked, and Natalie felt her heart begin to race. The approach. Vincent Stone had attended countless events like this throughout his career. He had built his fortune through strategic investments, bold decisions, and an ability to read people with remarkable accuracy. He was used to being the center of attention, to women approaching him with obvious intentions, to the game of high society networking. But the woman standing near the windows was different. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. Her body language showed discomfort, not calculation. While everyone else in the room wore masks of confidence and ambition, she wore genuine uncertainty. And somehow, that authenticity called to something deep within him. He set down his untouched glass of champagne and began walking towards her. Natalie watched him approach, her pulse quickening with each step he took. She considered running, finding Rachel, escaping to the safety of familiar faces, but her feet wouldn't move. Something powerful held her in place, a force she couldn't name or understand. When he finally stood before her, the noise of the party seemed to fade into background static. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said, his voice deep and smooth, with a hint of amusement. Natalie blinked, surprised by his directness. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's paying attention." "And you were paying attention?" The words came out before she could stop them, braver than she felt. "From the moment you walked in." His gaze never wavered from hers. "I'm Vincent." "Natalie." Her voice was barely above a whisper. He extended his hand, and when she placed hers in his, a jolt of electricity shot through her entire body. His touch was warm, firm, and somehow felt both dangerous and safe at the same time. Conversation that sparked fire. They moved to a quieter corner of the venue, away from the crowd. Vincent asked about her life, her work, her dreams. Unlike the superficial conversations she had endured earlier, this felt real. He listened intently to every word, asked thoughtful questions, and shared glimpses of his own experiences. "Why did you come tonight if you're not comfortable with events like this?" Vincent asked, leaning slightly closer. Natalie laughed softly. "My best friend is very persuasive. She thought I needed to get out more, experience something different." "And are you glad you came?" She met his eyes, feeling bold in a way she had never experienced. "I'm starting to think I might be." The air between them grew thick with unspoken tension. Vincent's gaze dropped to her lips before returning to her eyes. "Would you like to get some fresh air? The garden is beautiful at night." Every rational part of Natalie's brain screamed that this was moving too fast, that she didn't know this man, that she should be careful. But a deeper, more primal part of her wanted to say yes more than she had wanted anything in a long time. "I'd like that." The Garden of Temptation. The garden was even stunning up close. Soft lighting, illuminated stone pathways, and the scent of night-blooming flowers filled the air. A fountain created gentle background music, his water cascaded over smooth rocks. Natalie walked in comfortable silence at first, just enjoying the peace away from the party. Then Vincent stopped near a secluded bench surrounded by flowering bushes. "I have a confession," he said, turning to face her fully. Natalie's heart skipped. "What kind of confession?" "I've been to countless events like this, met thousands of people, but I've never felt compelled to leave a party just to talk to someone." He stepped closer. "Until tonight." Her breath caught. "Vincent, you don't have to say anything." His hand reached up, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch sent shivers down her spine. "I feel it too," she admitted softly. That was all the invitation Vincent needed. He closed the remaining distance between them, his hand cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his lips inches from hers. But Natalie couldn't form the words. Instead, she leaned in, closing the final gap. The kiss started soft, exploratory, but quickly deepened into something much more intense. Years of playing it safe, of following rules, of suppressing desires melted away in that moment. Vincent's other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her body against his, and Natalie surrendered completely to sensations she had never allowed herself to feel. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "Come with me," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Natalie knew what he was asking. She knew this was reckless, impulsive, completely unlike her. But for once in her carefully controlled life, she wanted to do something wild. "Yes."
Sunlight filtered through unfamiliar curtains, casting golden patterns across silk sheets. Natalie stirred slowly, her body wonderfully sore in ways that made her blush even in solitude. For a moment, she kept her eyes closed, wanting to hold on to the dreamlike quality of the night before. Vincent's penthouse had been as impressive as the man himself. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art on the walls, and a bedroom that felt like a sanctuary. But none of that mattered compared to what they had shared. The passion, the tenderness, the connection that went beyond physical attraction. She turned her head, expecting to find Vincent beside her, but the bed was empty. A note rested on his pillow, written in bold, confident handwriting. "Had to leave early for a business commitment. Stay as long as you like. My driver will take you wherever you need to go. Last night was extraordinary. Vincent." Natalie pressed the note to her chest, smiling despite the slight disappointment of waking alone. Reality was creeping back in, reminding her that she had work in a few hours and a life that existed far outside this luxurious bubble. She showered quickly, borrowed one of Vincent's shirts since her dress felt too formal for a Monday morning exit, and accepted the ride from his driver with grateful embarrassment. Return to normal life. Monday morning at Hartley Communications started like any other. Natalie arrived at the modest office building, greeted the security guard, and took the elevator to the fourth floor, where the marketing department buzzed with its usual energy. "Well, well, look who finally shows up," teased Jessica, her desk neighbor and occasional lunch companion. "How was the fancy charity gala? Did you meet any princes or millionaires?" Natalie felt heat rise to her cheeks as memories of Vincent flooded back. "It was interesting," she managed, keeping her voice neutral. "Just interesting?" Rachel posted photos on social media. That place looked incredible. Jessica leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Did anything exciting happen?" Before Natalie could deflect, their supervisor, Monica, walked past. "Conference room in 10 minutes, everyone. Mandatory meeting about the company announcement." Groans echoed through the department. Mandatory meetings usually meant budget cuts, restructuring, or some other corporate change that made everyone nervous. The announcement that changed everything. The conference room filled quickly. Natalie found a seat near the back, still distracted by thoughts of Vincent, and wondering if she would ever see him again. They hadn't exchanged numbers. She didn't even know his last name beyond Vincent. The whole experience felt surreal, like something that happened to other people, not to practical, cautious Natalie Brooks. Gerald stood at the front of the room, looking unusually formal. Beside him stood Gerald Hartley, the company founder, and several people Natalie didn't recognize. "Thank you all for gathering on short notice," Gerald began, his voice carrying the weight of significance. "I have important news to share. After 40 years of building Hartley Communications, I've made the decision to step back from daily operations. The company has been acquired by Stone Enterprises, and I'm confident this partnership will take us to new heights." Whispers rippled through the room. Stone Enterprises was a major investment firm known for transforming struggling companies into industry leaders. The acquisition meant changes, possibly big ones. "I'd like to introduce the new CEO who will be leading Hartley Communications forward. Please welcome Vincent Stone." Natalie's entire world tilted on its axis. Vincent walked into the conference room with the same confident stride she remembered from the gala. He wore a different suit, charcoal gray with a crisp white shirt, looking every bit the powerful executive. His presence commanded immediate attention, just as it had in the ballroom. But this time, when his eyes swept the room, they landed on her. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise, recognition, perhaps concern. Then his expression smoothed into professional neutrality so quickly that Natalie wondered if she had imagined it. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This couldn't be happening. The man she had spent the night with, the stranger she had given herself completely, was now her boss, her CEO, the person who controlled her career, her livelihood, her future at this company. Professional masks. Vincent's speech was polished and reassuring. He spoke about respecting the culture, maintaining jobs, and implementing strategic improvements. He made eye contact with various employees, asked questions, and projected exactly the kind of leadership people wanted to see. But Natalie couldn't focus on his words. She was too busy trying to control her breathing, to keep her face neutral, to process the impossible situation unfolding before her. When the meeting ended, people clustered around Vincent, introducing themselves, asking questions, jockeying for position. Natalie grabbed her notebook and tried to slip out quietly. "Natalie Brooks." His voice stopped her at the door. She turned slowly, meeting his gaze across the room. Everyone else faded into background noise. "Could you stay for a moment? I'd like to speak with you about the marketing initiatives Gerald mentioned." It sounded professional, reasonable. No one would question it. But Natalie saw the truth in his eyes. They needed to talk, and it had nothing to do with marketing. She nodded, stepping aside as her colleagues filed out, several shooting her curious glances. The private conversation. When the room finally emptied, silence stretched between them. Vincent closed the door, and suddenly the spacious conference room felt incredibly small. Natalie. Her name sounded different coming from his lips now, weighted with complexity. "Mr. Stone." She kept her voice steady, professional, even though her insides were churning. He moved closer, stopping a respectful distance away. "I had no idea you worked here. You have to believe that." "And if you had known?" The question escaped before she could stop it.
Vincent ran his hand through his hair, the first crack in his composed exterior.
Saturday evening arrived with unexpected nervousness. Natalie changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple navy dress that felt elegant without trying too hard. She told herself this was just dinner, just a conversation between 2 adults navigating a complicated situation, but her racing heart knew better. Vincent arrived exactly at 7, looking devastating in dark jeans and a fitted black sweater that somehow made him appear both casual and impossibly sophisticated. When their eyes met, the week of forced distance evaporated instantly. "You look beautiful," he said simply, offering his hand. She took it, feeling that now familiar electricity spark between them. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere we can talk without interruption." His smile held a hint of mystery. The restaurant was tucked away in a quieter part of the city, intimate and elegant without being ostentatious. Soft lighting, private booths, and a clientele that valued discretion. Vincent had clearly chosen carefully. Once seated, with wine poured and menus ignored, the reality of their situation settled between them. "I've been thinking all week," Vincent began, his fingers playing with the stem of his glass, "about us, about the company, about how to make this work." Natalie's stomach tightened. "Vincent, we can't just ignore the complications." "I'm not suggesting we ignore them. I'm suggesting we face them head-on, together." He leaned forward. "I've consulted with legal counsel about company policy. There are disclosure procedures, ethics protocols we can follow." "Disclosure means everyone knows," Natalie said quietly. "It means every achievement I have from this point forward gets questioned. Every promotion, every project assignment, every success becomes tainted by our relationship." Pain crossed his features. "So you've already decided we can't be together?" "I've decided I'm terrified," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I'm terrified of losing my career, my reputation, my independence. But I'm also terrified of walking away from something that feels this significant." Vincent reached across the table, taking her hand. "Then don't walk away. Stay. Fight for this with me." Confession and connection. The food arrived, but neither paid much attention to it. They talked for hours, sharing pieces of themselves they had held back that first night. Vincent spoke about building his company from nothing, about the loneliness that came with success, about how connection had become something he pursued in boardrooms rather than bedrooms. "I've dated," he said honestly, "but it always felt transactional. Beautiful women who wanted access to my wealth, my network, my status. I learned to keep walls up, to protect myself." He squeezed her hand. "But with you, from that first moment, the walls didn't work." Natalie shared her own story. Growing up middle class, working multiple jobs through college, clawing her way into a competitive industry through sheer determination. "I've never had anything handed to me. Everything I've achieved came through hard work and sacrifice. The idea of people thinking I slept my way to success makes me physically ill." "Anyone who knows you would never think that," Vincent insisted. "People don't need to know me to judge me. They just need the story." She met his eyes. The young female employee and her wealthy CEO boss. It writes itself. Vincent's jaw tightened. "I hate that the world works this way. I hate that you have to carry that burden." "So do I, but hating it doesn't change it." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of reality pressing down on the connection they both felt. "What if I stepped back from the CEO role?" Vincent said suddenly. Natalie's eyes widened. "What? No, you can't do that." "I could install an interim CEO, maintain board oversight, but remove the direct reporting relationship between us." "Vincent, you just acquired the company. Walking away now would raise questions, damage your reputation, possibly harm Hartley Communications." She shook her head firmly. "I won't let you sacrifice your career for this." "Then what do we do?" The frustration in his voice matched what she felt inside. "Because walking away isn't an option for me anymore, Natalie. I'm too deep." Her heart soared and broke simultaneously. "I don't know. I honestly don't know." The unexpected crisis. Monday morning brought chaos.
Natalie arrived at work to find the office in an uproar. Their biggest client, Reynolds Technology, had threatened to pull their account following a disastrous product launch that Hartley Communications had helped promote. "It's a nightmare," Monica said, looking frazzled. "Reynolds is claiming our strategy was flawed, that we didn't properly assess market reception. They're talking about a lawsuit." The marketing team gathered for an emergency meeting. Vincent attended, his expression grave as he reviewed the situation. "This account represents 30% of our annual revenue," he said bluntly. "Losing it would mean significant layoffs, possibly closing departments. We need solutions, fast." Natalie listened as colleagues proposed various damage control strategies, but something nagged at Natalie. She had worked on the Reynolds campaign extensively and knew the strategy had been sound. The problem wasn't the marketing approach. "May I say something?" she asked, her voice cutting through the competing voices. "Please," Vincent said, his eyes finding hers across the table. "I've reviewed the campaign data thoroughly. Our strategy drove significant consumer interest and engagement. The problem wasn't awareness or positioning. The problem was the product itself." She pulled up charts on her laptop. Customer feedback consistently mentioned technical glitches, poor user interface, and features that didn't deliver as promised. Reynolds is blaming us to deflect from their own development failures.